Dr. Amanda with Straightsmile Solutions, straightsmilesolutions.com, and I'm doing another one of our stubborn org charts. I call them that. Different org charts where we focus on situations, scenarios that might happen that can be really confusing sometimes for doctors. So I kind of take you through my brain, the little mind map that I make whenever I'm confronted with a situation, so you kind of know my thought process and what I or another orthodontist might be thinking, what we check when we're stuck or confused. So I'll take you through this one. It's a little similar to some of the other ones I've done, but this one is going to be more about spaces, not a crowded tooth, but spaces that aren't closing. I hear this pretty often when you're in braces. How come the spaces aren't closing? I have power chain on them. How come they're not closing? So here are the situations, right? So number one, make sure you run your case by an orthodontist first. Run it by them and make sure, if you can, it's better if you do indirect bonding over direct bonding to make sure the brackets are put on right. You have an orthodontist double check your case before you approve it. I always say that because if the case is wonky or not quite done right, well then, yeah, no, your spaces aren't going to close. So if it wasn't done right or if you put the braces on the wrong way and stuff. All right. Number two, ortho says your plan is good. Brackets are put on right. Let's move on. Take some x-rays. Make sure your roots are all parallel and not interfering in the space closure. If one tooth is a little tipped, sometimes the space is not going to close. Also, there's something called subgingival contact points, and that is where the shape of a tooth maybe is more bulbous towards the gingival, and sometimes it looks like there's a space, but it's actually not a space. So I actually have a lot of content on this. There's one called tapered. I think the keyword is tapered, and it's about tapered teeth that have subgingival contact points. Looks like there's a space. It's not really a space. It's just the shape of the teeth. So you got to make sure it actually is a space. That's why you take the x-rays. All right. Roots look fine in the progress panel. Move on. Check your bite clearance, because if you do not have overjet, you can't close spaces. They're not gonna. They might be there, but they're not gonna close if you don't have the overjet, because there's an interference, right? So you have to create overjet sometimes in order to close spaces. So that is what this means. It should not be anterior contacts. This, too tight, can't close spaces. All right, no interference, move on. Check your power chain. A lot of times, a lot of doctors are working with some junky power chain. Power chain expires after about a year. You have to throw it out and get new ones. So I have a video in my YouTube channel about checking for expired power chain. You could put the keyword in expired or power chain and it should come up. You'd be surprised how often this is the issue. Throw them all out, get new ones, and make sure you're using the right size power chain for the case. Depending on the size of the teeth, you may need short, you may need continuous. We only purchase, to be honest, the continuous because you can just leave extra links and it's just so much less waste than having, 30 different colors in short, 30 different colors in continuous, 30 different colors in open. I mean, that's dumb. That's 90 things you got to buy each year. Why not just buy one set of continuous in all the colors once a year instead of, all the different formats? It just leave extra links if needed. It's just so much easier. So anyways, and there is something called double power chain. Double power chain is a special technique. I did make a video on it. It is tricky. There's a few other videos on YouTube. If you put in double power chain, you might see someone actually putting it on, but it's basically a way of weaving two sets of power chains. It does work. It's tight, and I wouldn't do it more than 3 weeks at a time and have them check, because it's just builds plaque like crazy. But the sucker does work as long as you checked all the other stuff. But sometimes just getting a new fresh power chain makes a difference, just ordering new ones. And then if you've done all this and you still can't figure out what's going on, of course, double check all the meds, herbs, supplements, everything like that, because you'd be surprised what a lot of people are taking out there. And when you start doing Google searches to the efficacy and the interaction with the osteoclast and osteoblast, you start to see there's interactions. They may not have research about orthodontics yet. That's going to take time after a medicine is made, a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades. But they may have something on osteoblasts and osteoclasts, anytime they may check diabetes interactions before they check bone you know what I mean? Like, it's going to take time for them to check each individual variable. So if you start to see issues or things happening, with the medical research, well, it might be a bit of a red flag that maybe it's affecting tooth movement. Maybe not. Do you take the patient off the meds? No, that's not our business to do. That's the physician's business. But it should be at least a little bit of a red flag that, maybe you got to take it a little bit slower I think it's rare, unless a tooth is ankylosed, which is point number 6, it's rare that a medicine is going to prevent movement, but it can definitely slow it down or make it riskier so that the tooth is more likely to blunt. So you have to check. So again, double check. You can always have that tooth read for partial or full ankylosis. If it is, it's probably not going to move. All right. Thanks so much.